Welcome back, Dota 2 fans, for this Game 2 of a best of 3 in Bridon Open Cup. This is your winners bracket finals between BBC and BU. BBC systematically picking apart BU in Game 1. Go headlong into a tiny IO with their Padrino Broodmother and their Massacre Timbersaw, and they are able to take them down in just under 40 minutes, I should say. We are HeflaTV, your English coverage. I am Morage, please. With me is hippiecasts. Hippie, what are you expecting coming out from Game 2 aside from that early phase Broodmother ban from BU?
Well, we got a couple of the spin to win heroes who didn't get banned out because BU, obviously, aside from not wanting to play against the Broodmother, don't want to play against the IO. So
Right.
the Jug and the Troll, who are both really solid this patch, even after Jug got nerfed, available for either team.
Yeah, certainly so, and they both have a very high win rate. It's about 54% for Jug, about 58% for Troll, and actually together they have something like a 74% win rate in this 6-8-3. So you will see, as you mentioned, great call, the first pickup Troll and the instant response Jug coming out from BU. So not going to give over that combo, but certainly two strong heroes going either way for both teams. Will be interesting to see who is more proficient with these very highly favored heroes in the recent meta.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, just talking about the carries isn't going to get us to a lot of places, but, you know, Jug, I will feel, will probably have a reasonably strong mid game, but Troll turns, I mean, kind of a little bit like the IO Tiny combo does. Troll turns any one team fight into a tower and more, thanks to his ultimate. So we'll see, man. I mean, I think it's going to largely have a bearing on. I would like to see BU pick up a less pick-offy team than they did last round, and the Disruptor, I think, is a good start. I think that really hurt them, that they just basically, every time there was a 5-man engagement, they just outright lost because they didn't have the power to take it.
Yeah, it was a very predictable draft from them, something perhaps they thought they could execute well, but BBC certainly dealing with that well, and as we mentioned, their movement just impeccable in that Game 1, and they were able to outmaneuver them in most cases, finding quite a few distractions for that tiny IO combo. Once over in the top jungle, chasing around Massacre, BKB'd up Timbersaw, and another time low in the Radiant jungle where they found out Levi while Padrino was pushing in their range racks. So yeah, things looking good for BBC here. BU, something to note, guys, they're not on the brink of elimination here. They are vulnerable to being dropped down to that lower bracket where they will face up against X Games. So they still do have a chance to make it to the grand finals if they lose this game too. But this is a best of 3, so if they pick this up, we could go to a deciding Game 3. Lion pickup comes out for BBC here. They're going to ban out the Puck, and Padrino Slark going to be banned out by BU. So a couple of respect bans coming out early and often. Slark, not the greatest versus Disruptor, but either way will be removed from the pool.
Yeah. Puck bans are so weird to me nowadays. I mean, in spite of the fact that, yes, there's some really powerful Puck players, the dude's got like a 38% win rate this patch. He's just not having a good cycle. And while I don't think it's that Puck himself is really bad, but I think a lot of the heroes that are more popular just, and they're not really taking advantage fully of the Puck. There's not quite as many big AoE heroes that take full advantage of the Dream Coil. You have a good amount of like these sort of single targety supports with a little bit of AoE, like the Lion, like the Disruptor, and you may basically have like your 1 or 2 big team fighters tops.
Yeah, I mean, Axe has been favored quite heavily recently, and he's really good versus Puck. So, as you mentioned, he does have a very low win rate, and there's a lot of single target, a lot of silence being picked up. I mean, Skywrath is always in favor. We saw how many disables there were last game. Even the Static Storm deals with him fairly well from the side of BU. It is BBC banning it out here, so perhaps they're a little bit worried about perhaps their Lion getting burst down. Troll's not the biggest in terms of being worried about a Waning Rift. He usually builds into a BKB after something like an H-Dom casual Yasha build up, so it will be interesting to see perhaps if that ban is indicative of something that they're willing to pick up a little bit later on. Perhaps they don't pick up the strongest mid laner here and worried about them getting dominated by a Puck. But yeah, certainly an interesting ban, as you mentioned. Magnus going to be banned out by BU. So interestingly enough, you usually see the Magnus picked up with the Juggernaut. Allows him to scale really well into the late game with that Empower, but definitely not willing to give that over to a Troll Warlord, who for it would also be pretty potent with him as well. So interesting ban coming out from BU. I mean, converging on an RP does kind of set them up for a Static Storm, but either way, Magnus is a pretty strong hero in this one, and not something that they're willing to give over to Miracle in that mid lane.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, one of the biggest things for that Magnus is going to be anyone who gets their hands on that Empower just increases the farming speed of a melee carry incredibly, incredibly high.
Yeah.
So you just don't want to even have to deal with that, especially with, I mean, either side could use it really well if the Jug wanted to build something like a Mask of Madness and get Empower, or just the Troll in general. If he has the Empower in melee mode, he can farm up camps very, very fast thanks to the attack speed buff he's stacking up from Fervor. So I can honestly see the Magnus working really well for either team. And maybe, I mean, thinking about the Puck ban, maybe BBC wants to run a Queen of Pain. She's always kind of, iffy against a Puck just because it's very easy to dodge her mid lane harass, and a lot of her power in mid lane comes from that very early Shadow Strike potency. And well, I mean, I don't think she's like top tier. I do think the 1300 range early blink is absolutely gigantic. Everyone's thinking about, pure damage ultimate, which is very good, don't get me wrong. Having her able to be one of those great BKB punchers in the mid to late game is fantastic. But the amount of just kind of threat space she puts on the map by having that blink is huge.
Yeah, definitely so. Very long range of initiation, and is pretty good into Juggernaut. He does rely on that Blade Fury and often will build into a Mask of Madness, so the pure damage through that Blade Fury with a Mask of Madness popped is quite potent, but they're actually going to pick up the Undying here early. They do pick up the Crystal Maiden as well. The range on that ultimate after the buff, or the radius I should say, is absolutely gargantuan, so if they don't deal with this CM at some point, they will have to be a little bit worried about that ultimate. But there's the Ancient Seal Instant Silence, there's a Flame Break, there's a Static Storm, there's even a Glimpse and a Lasso to be used up against the CM. Mini Stun from the Omni Slash as well, so not sure how influential her ults will be in this one, but she does have that Arcane Aura, can help the Undying get up those decay stacks pretty heavily without worrying too much about his mana sustain. And so BBC gonna look to fight early here, it seems, with perhaps what is an aggressive try, maybe the Troll in the mid lane, and that's why they ban out the Puck, and they will look to pick up one more perhaps for their safe lane or an off laner if they use a defensive try here. Not sure what their potential is early game. I mean, they do have the Glimpse from the Disruptor, they do have the Concussive Shot, so it looks like for BU they can extricate themselves from any danger with that Blade Fury, Concussive Shot, and the Glimpse in order to allow them to retreat.
Yeah, I think the Lion CM Undying aggressive try could be really, really potent if they decide to run it that way. I mean, obviously you'd have 3 squishies in the try, Juggernaut, Disruptor, Skywrath Mage. None of them is going to deal with decay stacks well at all.
Yeah.
And then just the amount of damage you can put out early with a Crystal Maiden nuke combo, the extra disable, just keeping people in range for the Undying to hit them with those auto attacks to get more of those decay stacks up. They can get a lot of kills there if they play it well. Yeah. And I think, real quick, sorry, the other thing about the Undying is in team fights, you have... if the tombstone's down, I'm going to stop right there.
Yeah, very throwback draft from BBC. They don't have Weehaw anymore, guys, but they're not too worried about picking up the Meeple. Going to get over to Miracle's hands in that mid lane, and he will have somewhat of a global presence when he gets up his Boots of Travel and his Blink and be able to add himself to the fray. They definitely will look to fight early and often from the side of BBC. What are your thoughts on what seems to be a core Warlock coming out for Mind Control in the mid lane for BU?
It's kind of a throwback to the Owie 2000 Warlock. I mean, this was, I think, pre-TI3 he was doing a lot of that, but I mean, he's pretty hard to harass out of the mid lane or beat in the mid lane thanks to the power of Shadow Word. If you're going, I think Owie often a lot of times actually did Shadow Word stats in the mid lane, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, he opt for usually like 1 or 2 points in the bonds, but more recently when he ran it, he'd actually max Upheaval. And
did he really? Yeah. I missed that.
Yeah, he thinks it's one of the strongest spells in the game along with Midnight Pulse. So that was something they ran quite a bit in C9, but it was more in kind of a scrim environment. They didn't really get to translate it into too much pro success. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how they run this for sure.
Yeah, well, there's no natural diffusal carrier over on the side of BBC, so if he can get a really early Aghanims, which is, of course, generally what you're going to be going for if you're farming a Warlock.
Right.
It could be a real strong counter to this very potent mid-game fighting team that BBC has drafted and make them very, very afraid to engage anytime it's up.
Yeah, definitely so. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Seemingly on paper, both teams have ways to deal with one another, but I think certainly the main point on the map will be if they opt for an aggressive try to see how that fares. But currently, looks like we've got a dual lane configuration. Either way, we'll introduce the teams on the Dire side. We've got BBC winning game 1. Yapsor's going to pick up the Lion Demon Witch over to his hands. We've got Massacre playing on the Troll Warlord, currently in that safe lane Miracle towards the mid on the Mappo, and we've got Levi picking up the CM, and rounding out the lineup is Bridon on that core Undying.
Right, over on the side of Basically Unknown, we're going to have Sexy Bambo playing that Bat Rider over in the off lane. Mind Control with the Warlock mid lane. I really do want to see how this goes. I think it's got a lot of potential. Paris will be farming the Juggernaut, of course. Ivevlosmir will be handling our Skywrath Mage, and Disruptor handled by the legendary Seb, Bucking Mad himself.
Yeah, and that was a beautiful pronunciation of the Skywrath Mage's name there. I really like that. I'm just going to let you call him out for the rest of the game. Either way, something to note, guys.
Just go with Smear.
It'll
probably help.
Something to note, Crit is out, so Magoma has been stood in for both in Game 1 and now in Game 2. And unfortunately, Fucking Mad having to pick up that Ogre in the second game. Something Mike Lars can attest to in chat is that Magoma is the greatest Ogre Magi player in the world. So perhaps that's why they lost that Game 1. But Crit not going to stand in for this second one, and we will have Magoma being replaced once again. It looks like we've got a dual lane configuration coming out from BBC, so they should be able to sustain themselves in this bot lane and perhaps have a little bit of kill potential onto the Bat Rider, but just not willing to give over that troll to a 1v1 matchup to Bambo's Bat Rider.
No, I think he'd lose that pretty handily.
Yeah.
I would not like that at all. I think Undying in a dual lane, even against a tri-lane, can be really, really potent, because if you try to actually stack 3 heroes in the lane to push him out, he's getting more and more chances to get double decays out, making him very, very hard to bring down. And if you try to go on an Undying when he's got a couple of decay stacks, because your hit points are going to be so low, people kind of sleep, I think, sometimes. I mean, they realize Crystal Main has a lot of slow and obviously the nice disable from the Frostbite. They don't really realize that her level 2 damage potential is like one of the top 3 in the game, I think.
Yeah.
It's something like almost 200 at level 2. It's nasty. Really quick pickoff going to come in that mid lane from the Warlock. Or, excuse me, on the Warlock by that Meepo.
Yeah, as soon as he picked up the Divided We Stand, he grabs 2 Earthbinds into a couple of Pooths, and the easy kill on the already harassed down Mind Control Warlock. So very nice start going BBC's way in terms of their Meepo, and they're doing pretty well in all their other lanes as well. A little bit of Dire Vision here is going to scout out the rotation down from Fucking Mad to the Bounty Rune. He's going to secure that, perhaps for his Skywrath Mage at this point, needing an early set of boots for their harass, and will do so.
I'm really interested to see how this bottom lane goes for BBC, because I'm not, again, I think it's a little bit dangerous for BU to go in on, but I do think the potential exists for them to get the kills. Obviously, Juggernaut has a lot of kill potential in the early game. Skywrath Mage maybe wanting to get a slow off. No, he's not going to throw anything.
Yeah, 1 point into stats for Paris' Jug here, 2 into Blade Fury. Very unorthodox build coming his way. They are going to glimpse back and look for the kill potential onto Bridon, and with the Ancient Seal buffing up that Blade Fury damage, as well as the kinetic field there, they will find that one. Frostbite onto Fucking Mad brings him low, but he'll be just fine for the time being, and they'll tie it up 1-1 thus far. Not the biggest loss for BBC, but certainly a nice kill going the way of BU.
Yeah, but you could see already how tough it was for them to bring him down. He only had a couple of decay stacks. It took the entire Blade Fury, 2 supports worth of auto attacks with Ancient Seal damage buff to kill that Undying.
Yeah, meanwhile, mid lane, Miracle gonna find Mind Control again. No, Earthbind is down, so he will be able to back off under the cover of his Shadow Word, and lucky for Mind Control, could have been a very poor start for him. He'll be able to salve up and stay in lane for the time being. Meanwhile, Sexy Bambo has rotated out of lane, perhaps looking to find some stacks here, and doesn't want to give those over to the Meepo. Does have level 2 in the Firefly, can look to farm them up, but he's not going to find any fruit from this rotation quite yet.
God, Meepo already sitting at level 5. I mean, just getting the split going on, getting a little bit of XP in the jungle, obviously doing his own, maybe doing his own stacks right here. I assume that's what the second Meepo is going to be going for.
Yep, Tombstone dropped in the bottom lane, and they're able to bring down Levi as he rotates over to that small camp. Very nice kill for this dual lane, and they'll be able to tie things up 1-1 in this lane. Bridon finding his level 3 with that, and the Crystal Maiden actually doing very well as well, rotating towards the mid lane, almost level 4, and under the cover of that Invis should be able to find that level 4 with a creep kill or 2 here. And Earthbind is going to go out onto Mind Control. There's a Frostbite as well, I should say. A couple of poofs go out. The Nova is there, and actually rotation in with the Earth Spike from Yapzor will finish off that Mind Control Warlock in the mid game. And you alluded to it earlier on that they are going to be a little bit worried to engage into this Mind Control Warlock if he's able to find some item progression, but already 2 deaths in the very early game for this Warlock is not boding well for his ability to have an impact on this mid game.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't really expect him to go down solo to the Meepo. I think that was probably just bad positioning on his part, but against a Lion, you only really need either the Lion or the CM to help you bring down that Warlock. I mean, he's a pretty tanky intelligence hero, all things considered, but Meepo puts out enough damage, and you can keep him slowed long enough if you can just get 1 point in the Geostrike and maybe the next level or so, that it'll be very, very easy to not let him get away. And both of those heroes are so potent that especially when they rotate both of them in, very, very easy. It looks like Lion's looking for something down bottom here. Maybe they want to bait with the Undying and counter with the Lion. He's just hiding in the trees at the moment.
Yep, 2 levels in that Earth Spike, and Bridon postured up very forward, certainly. It looks like Bambo was able to clean up a double stack here in the mid lane, and he found his level 4 from that. We'll have to rotate back towards base for the time being. Almost killed off, actually, 1v1 by Massacre, but not able to do so. Yapzor going to rotate out of this off lane as well, and scouted out by the sentry perhaps briefly was Bridon. He's going to get sealed up. Kinetic Field not going to latch, however. Tombstone is down, and he will walk back into it. Soul Rip is there to keep him healthy for now. Frostbite as well onto Paris. Bridon going to be able to rotate out just fine, and the zombies will tick down Levi with one last right click. Battle Trance popped as well, and Levi hitting quickly, but not going to be enough there. He's got 2 stacks of Sticky Napalm. They will bring him down under the Frostbite. Healing Ward not quite enough to keep Paris up. The fire will tick him down, however. Levi gonna fall as well. 3 stacks of napalm up, but meanwhile bringing down your opponent's 1 position overall, bringing down the Warlock in the mid lane as well. It's just a favorable trade across the map for BBC.
I think in general, yeah, if we're looking at positions, I think it's a little worrisome that Bambo got the double kill right there, because if he can kind of take off early in the game and start, dragging people in for easy pickoffs, especially, key heroes like the Troll, or just getting his hands on the Meepo, separating one Meepo from the rest, so that they can bring him down very quickly before he can kind of respond. I think there's a lot of potential for a Batrider to sort of take over the mid game, but obviously they do have some decent ways to deal with it as well. The Crystal Maiden, the instant hex coming out from Lions, so you'll have to be a little careful.
Yeah, there's a lot of disable available in the Earthbind, in the Lions toolkit, the CM's toolkit as well, and even just a Lucky Bash perhaps from Massacre could be pretty detrimental to this Batrider's ability to start making things happen in the mid game, but certainly is worrisome for him to find an early blink. He's going to find another double stack here in the jungle, has picked up 1,000 gold as well as his Tranquils, so will be pretty sustainable wherever he chooses to go on the map, can be able to farm up that blink pretty soon, and has picked up an extra level in the napalm as well as the Firefly, so holding on to that lasso for now, and certainly warranted, being that he does need a little bit of time for this blink dagger to come out anyways.
Yeah, I will say that little skirmish down in bottom lane really showed us the power of that Tombstone and Decay. I mean, with all of the zombies up that he could get the Soul Rip going off of, obviously it was even harder to bring Bridon down. And they were able to just chase people down, force the TP. That was basically a 4v2, and they traded even. Yeah,
certainly so. So definitely something a little bit worrisome. Bridon has fallen twice now, but has his Tranquils and Ibasi will be able to stay in lane just fine. Yapzor is trying to find some solo farm on this line. Top lane needs to be a little bit careful, but only the Skywrath Mage here is just a bit worried about any support in tow coming the way of him from BU. The Nova is going to go out bottom. Healing Ward has expired. Decay going to go out as well. Paris going to have to posture himself up behind his tier 1 here defensively, but elsewhere BBC is farming the map quite well. They've got their Lion soaking some XP in the top lane. The Troll is farming the jungle. They can look to go on this Skywrath pretty soon, and probably will elect to do so. Yaps are going to rotate around the trees. He gets the instant hex off. Earth Spike is there as well. Ranged and a melee form of Whirling Axe going to hit. Mystic Flare is going to be dropped with the Ancient Seal. Not quite enough to bring down Yapzor, and just a glancing blow coming out from that fading Skywrath. He did pick up his Mystic Flare though in that offlane, and that will be very potent up with the lasso to find some pickoffs.
Yeah, and it's one of those ultimates. One of the nice things about being ganked as a Skywrath Mage is you can throw your Mystic Flare and not really worry about, oh crap, did I just waste that? It's always off cooldown. Yeah,
certainly so, and it's a very nice ability to have. Fucking Mad pretty low on this Disruptor in terms of his level progression, at least relative to the other supports who are 6, 6, and 5 respectively. Fucking Mad's gonna get frostbitten up. Tombstone has been dropped as well, and the Freezing Field coming down, doing tons of work. The Omni Slash is there from Paris, but it's a little bit too late. He does find a nice solo kill. The zombies are chasing him down, however. Decay is up into 2 seconds. Paris should be just fine, however, and perhaps Bridon a little bit worried about TP rotation at this point. Will be a 1-for-1 in that bot lane. Levi going down for the Crystal Maiden. Nice kill going the way of Paris's Juggernaut, however.
I don't know. I think the fact that you got first of all, you got solo experience onto the Undying, who is a really level dependent hero. You really kind of want him to get his maxed out levels and all of those abilities as quickly as is humanly possible, because he falls off pretty hard shortly afterwards, but he wants to have that high point as high as possible. But also the fact that you got him to burn the Omni Slash for that, which means now you can engage pretty freely as soon as Tombstone's back up, and if he doesn't have that available, there's no good way to counter kill you.
Yeah, top lane looks like Bambo going for a double kill here. He's got 3 stacks of Napalm up onto Miracle. Miracle actually whiffing both Earthbinds, unfortunately, and he was able to pick off the troll with a lasso. That gives him his level 8.5. He's got more than enough to pick up his Blink Dagger now as well. And first use of lasso was a solo kill and a success. He will pick up his Blink off the back of that. An unfortunate bit of a misstep from Miracle there, not able to land either Earthbinds, and good maneuverability coming out from Bambo. Still, we have the troll second overall in the net worth, 1,000 ahead of Paris, and Miracle starting to widen that gap as well. He's got 1k gold in addition to 2 elements, only another 1,000 away from that full Aghanims 10 minutes in.
Yeah, that's pretty significant, not gonna lie. Picking stuff up very, very quickly. I would I mean, he did go for the early treads, so obviously not as interested in kind of that map mobility sort of ganking thing. He just wants to farm up in the meantime, maybe switch over to Boots of Travel later in the game. It's just, I think that's really a style choice. I think you can go for the early Blink Dagger if you want to be going and getting a lot of kills, and maybe the early Boots of Travel, and it will accelerate your farm rate really, really well. It's just, I'm surprised that Undying managed to go down.
Big Finger of Death comes out bottom onto the Skywrath Mage. Not quite enough, though, as they do bring down Pedrino's Undying earlier, and Yaps are going to be dropped here. They're even going to drop the Rock, looking for Levi as well. Battle Trance is there. He's going to look to turn for a Frostbite, but the turn rate is terrible with that sticky Napalm up, and 3 kills going the way of BU in that bottom lane. Very nice engagement for them. Double kill going the way of Paris's Juggernaut. He'll pick up 1,000 gold in addition to his Mask of Madness, and the only good thing for BBC is that their troll and their meeple were farming in the meantime.
Yeah, and the fact that they dropped the Rock right there, I mean, initially you wouldn't think dropping Rock is worth it for the sake of a Crystal Maiden kill, but it's going to translate into a very, very easy tower push with that Golem to tank up for them.
Yep, Pedrino is going to jump in looking for the deny. He's going to think better of it, however, and Levi will return to lane with his comrade as well as Yapsor. They don't have the Finger of Death, however, so no immediate kill potential off the back of the retreat from BU, and they'll be able to remove themselves from any risk here, and the Golem will now expire. But yeah, as you mentioned, definitely getting a nice trio of kills there, as well as the objective off the back of that. So things looking a little bit better in this early mid game for BU, recovering from what wasn't the greatest start.
Ag's done on Meepo, so there's 4 Meepos up right now.
Yeah, and he's farming extremely well. 6,700 net worth up on him, is 1,000 ahead of the next nearest competitor, which is his teammate in the Troll Warlord. Not too many stacks available to him, but he'll be able to farm up the jungle very quickly and frequently here, and they definitely need to start dealing with this for BU, as they don't have the greatest lineup to deal with him late game. They do have that lasso, as you alluded to earlier, as well as a glimpse to isolate a single Meepo, but a quick poof out from the glimpse should be just fine for Miracle to keep alive, so they are going to have to expend this lasso more often than not to kill him off.
I don't know, I think they have enough. If the Skywrath Mage is there, they can just always silence the one Meepo and pick him off. They can isolate him. So I don't think it's that difficult to target down the one Meepo. I think what you really need to be worried about more is if you try to isolate one Meepo and the rest of them poof in and the rest of the team is there, and it was a bait, because there were, I mean, last game BBC got a lot of really good baits with Pedrino's Brood. In that, they'd have, especially the Disruptor sitting there waiting to just waiting to static storm whenever they went in on her. So they're obviously no stranger to saying, oh well, this guy's definitely going to be coming in for us right now. Let's try and finish him off. Oh, Mad in a terrible position. He gets the static storm off, but no real damage coming out. Gets blown up almost instantly by the battle trance with the Meepos and the whirling axes. So it looks like BBC is going to back off of that Roshan. They know the troll is very low, but at the same time, wow, that's a lot of damage.
Yeah, Bambo smoked up looking to find someone retreating, is not going to be able to do so, at least for the time being, has almost eclipsed that level 11 mark, but can be able to blink forward for a lasso onto Miracle. Will be able to find it. He's going to get hexed up instantly, but the Rock will cover him. Omni Slash goes through, but the poof in from most of the Meepos there will be able to bring down Bambo very low, but Miracle falling first. Pedrino looking for the Batrider, has a decay available, will be able to chop him down. Mystic Flare does finish off the Crystal Maiden, however, and a glimpse back onto Massacre will keep the Skywrath Mage safe for the time being, but the decay picks him off nonetheless. And meanwhile, Yapzor brought down to Paris, and the Golem getting Massacre very low. He's going to look to man up against Paris. Blade Fury will be there, and Massacre having to back off here. Will be just fine to do so with those phase boots moving back. However, he has left Bridon pretty deep behind enemy lines. He's going to get glimpsed back as well to the high ground, and look like Mad going to try and retreat as this tombstone is up. The Golem still up for 15 seconds. Bridon going to fight him up here pretty tanky on this Undying with 3 decay stacks, and should be able to bring him down pretty quickly. Looking for that 150 gold bounty. Nice deny coming out from Bridon. I'm going to take that away from Mind Control. Overall, pretty good engagement there going BU's way. They're able to bring down Miracle, stifle his farm a bit, and they only really lose Bamboo as well as the Skywrath Mage.
Yeah, just a little bit of miss micro coming in there from Miracle, honestly. He wasn't able to get the one low Meepo back out of the Blade Fury. He was just kind of chasing down Bamboo's Bat Rider and thinking he would tank through it, I guess. Unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely not Weehaw, but you can't say that about many players. Unfortunately, Weehaw's Meepo's pretty damn incredible. So, unfortunately, BBC not able to do quite what they were with this lineup, but still looking pretty good. We'll take a look at the metrics quickly under the pause. There was a nice dip back in BU's favor, but still about a 3K lead in net worth going the way of BBC. 2K about thereabouts in experience as well. So, still fairly even at this point, and Paris has been able to recover off the back of surviving through a few of these engagements here, and does have his Mask of Madness. Probably has an item being ferried over to him fairly soon. Maybe was one on the courier that is now dead, but he looks to be recovering fairly well ahead of Massacre now, who is going to pick up that Yasha as I alluded to in the draft.
This Warlock is what I'm actually most worried about for Unknown, just because he hasn't really gotten what they need him to. I mean, he's only sitting on a point booster at 16 minutes as opposed to his lane opponent who has a full Aghanims and 2,000 gold. He's got 4 deaths on it. And, you know, he's gotten a couple of good golems out, but you need something more if you're running him mid. If this was a support Warlock and all he did was drop a couple of good rocks, he'd be in a fantastic position. I would say he's actually been playing very well. But you're expecting just a little bit more when you put him in that 2 position because you've given up the ability to have another late gamer instead of that Warlock. Whereas, you know, BBC, they've got both the Troll and the Meepo available for the late game, whereas you have a Juggernaut and a Warlock and maybe some pick-off potential from the Bat Rider.
Yeah, I mean, they do have the Bat Rider, which is somewhat of a trump card, but yeah, as you mentioned, they are committing a little bit much onto this Warlock, and it hasn't paid dividends necessarily for them thus far. A couple influential rocks, as you mentioned, but really no Aghanims in the near future going to come out. He's not even his level 11, so doesn't have that ever so potent level 2 ultimate, which is up on most of the core heroes for BBC and even on Bamboo for the side of BU. So I do worry for Mind Control as you do at this point, but if he's not able to get picked off, he should be able to find some decent farm. Is 2K away from that Aghanim, so needs to survive for the next little bit and perhaps can look to recover a bit into this late game. But as you mentioned, the dual core of the Meepo Troll definitely more potent than that Juggernaut +1 that BU has.
Well, at least with the courier coming back up in 10 seconds, Paris will be able to pick up that Yasha that got delayed for the past 3. So that'll be something helpful for them, give them a little bit more right-click damage in those fights, help out when he pops that Mask of Madness.
Yeah, speaking of Mind Control, smoke up mid, and they're going to bring him down under the Hex and the Earthbind. Easy kill. Poofs from Miracle, going to finish that off. Glyph, well, Glyph is popped here, made it out instantly, and this tier 1 will be brought down very quickly with the Meepos and the Massacre. Battle Trance being popped a little bit early for that kill, but as we mentioned, definitely something to be worried about for BU, and they really needed some big rocks to be dropped and some definitely more potent ones with something like an Aghanims or even like a Veil coming out from that Warlock in this mid game, and it doesn't look like that's going to be impending anytime soon.
I don't know if I like this Roche attempt. I mean, I get that they have the Tombstone, the CM to zone people out, but if they can get a good Disruptor ultimate going, there's the Tombstone for the zoning, Kinetic Field to lock them in, and Static Storm just on everybody down in that Roshan pit. Mazakari's actually going to get put up on the high ground. He can't get the melee out. Looks like Meepo does get his hands on the Aegis. Lion buys back quickly, trying to come back in. Bridon taking a lot of damage, but the zombie slow onto Paris. He's not able to maneuver in this fight. The Tombstone just still sitting up there on the high ground, and the Rock. The Warlock is back in. The Rock is dropped. Zombies chasing everyone down on the side of basically Unknown. What a disaster this was. I said I thought that they should go in and engage. I was wrong, and it looks like Miracle gonna try and blink up, still trying to chase Mad. Poofs up all the meatballs, throwing a few Earthbinds. He doesn't quite have the range to catch that Disruptor. The Tranquil Boots just coming off cooldown right now. Still dodging. You got one more meatball, maybe gonna have a chance. He blinks up into the instant poof in. Finish off that Disruptor.
Yeah, and they're trying to chase down Mind Control as well. Yule's up there, though, onto Bridon, and he had to use that defensively for the rock, not to finish him off. Mind Control does have a TP, but it's still down for 10 seconds. Yapzor looking to find him, will guess wrong for the time being, and TPs are inbound as well from Bambo. He's going to give him that Firefly vision, and they will be able to hex him up instantly. However, Miracle going to jump in with big poofs. Finger of Death going to finish him off. Massive TP commitments come through. Mystic Flare's going to be split completely between all the meepos. Miracle dropping very low, will fall, but he brings Mind Control with him. And it looks like BBC going to have to back out for the time being as Paris has returned to the fray. So they feed a little bit over after that engagement. They still bring down the Warlock as well as Bambo and the Skywrath Mage. And with the Mask of Madness move speed, Paris should be able to chase down Levi. He can turn for a Frostbite and will be able to do so. Instant Blade Fury though, nice path taken as well by Paris. Should be able to chop down Levi here as there is no support inbound. He will get glimpsed back as well into that kinetic field. But just a small consolation prize going BU's way.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they ended up burning both the Aegis and the Meatball already, so they didn't actually end up holding onto that Aegis and applying a lot of pressure with it, but I think they got enough out of that fight to make it completely worth it. A Static Storm, I mean, that was such a good start for basically Unknown. You had the Static Storm on a bunch of heroes. You had all of the Meepos caught in it. They weren't able to get anything done. Bambo actually pushed Masakari out of the Storm and up onto the high ground.
I feel like that was a good thing for BBC.
I think it was. Yeah. I think it was in the end because it let him apply damage to the Roshan safely. It let him, throw out the ranged whirling axes. So I don't know. Maybe they did end up better off for that. And another pick off on that Warlock. Mind Control not having the game of his life. He is only one piece away from that Aghanim, so he is still making progress, but he really needs to get his hands on that and make a big impact when it comes out, because if he doesn't, I don't see the rest of this game going very well for basically Unknown. I think they need to win 2 or 3 fights on the back of that double rock.
And they really can't be feeding kills over to Miracle of all people. He's got an ultimate orb on the way to his Hex as well as 1,500 gold. Paris is going to be able to find a kill top lane with the help of that Firefly Vision, and we'll use up that Omni Slash to bring down Yapzor. They should be able to translate this into a tier 1, but they'll trade over their safe lane tier 1 as well. And Glyph is available here. By BBC actually just used, so they will be able to bring that out tier 1. Even trade going that way. Nice solo kill going the way of the Juggernaut, but Miracle, as I mentioned, well on the way to his Hex. 2,200 gold available to him after that tower last hit, and once they pick that up, I really worry for BU to do anything with this Warlock in any of these engagements.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a Blink Hex onto the Warlock before every fight with your Meepo, that could just be the game right there, because that's their trump card, is that Warlock ultimate. I mean, we were talking about Batrider as kind of a trump card with the lasso, which is true. He can be very, very potent for sure, but I don't see them winning without good rocks for the rest of the game. And again, the good double rocks have to be really, really impactful. And Fatal Bonds, I mean, they can definitely wreck with Fatal Bonds, and especially Miracle, because you can bounce so much damage between all of those Meepos. He's gonna, you see how quickly he's dying, in spite of how tanky he is, in spite of all his magic resistance. 2,000 life, and the dude still, if he has Fatal Bonds on him, goes down very, very quickly.
Yeah, and he has opted to max that up, which is certainly warranted in this matchup. But as you mentioned, if he's not going to survive in these engagements, it's just not going to be enough for the lineup of BU, and they really do heavily rely on that rock. As you mentioned, the lasso is somewhat of a trump card, but it kind of does hinder on the fact that you control the tempo a bit more, and it seems like BBC has been a little bit better in terms of taking engagements on their terms. Speaking of the lasso, though, jump forward, Bridon is going to get pulled into a Mystic Flare. Rock even going to be committed for this one, probably a bit of overkill. Glimpse back onto Levi is actually going to kind of keep him safe for the moment. Whirling a ranged axe is going to go on to 2. And they will glyph up this tier 1, perhaps looking to defend this. Buyback is available on Bridon, but Miracle posturing up in the trees, does have the blink ready. It looks like they will just concede this tier 1 unabated for the time being. Concussive Shot is going to go out onto Levi. He's going to get flame struck back and will be brought down underneath the Blade Fury, but a blink poof forward onto Mind Control brings down the Warlock underneath the Static Storm. Bambo dropping very low. One last big long range right click from Miracle. Going to finish him off. He'll get the Earthbind up onto the Skywrath Mage, but he will fall in the time being, and a Miracle not going to be able to micro out some of those low meepos as we've seen before, and it's a roughly even trade in the mid lane. But either way, they are going to stop the progression of Paris's Juggernaut, and that is certainly a small win for BBC despite that tower going down. Trading evenly for BU is certainly nice at this point in the game, but they lose their Warlock early once again, and so he's not able to find much there, but does now have the Aghanims, which is a big pickup for BU.
Yeah, it looks like he was able to pick it up off of that tower gold and that little bit of gold he got from those couple of kills. I was okay with the rock usage right there, because just like when it was dropped earlier in bottom lane for the CM, right. I mean, first of all, the Undying is a pretty decent sized pickoff. He's playing the 3 position right here. He's got the Vlad's aura, he's got a Eul's, he can be very disruptive in these fights, make his team much, much harder to bring down. But, so getting him and then also having the free tower because you already have the rock up was pretty nice. But we saw again, I mean, with Miracle, he blinked in with and poofed in all his meepos, and then was stuck in a static storm with Fatal Bonds on.
Yeah.
And by the time he was out of that, all his meepos were at like a quarter life. So I mean, again, just seeing the power of that Fatal Bonds in dealing with that particular hero.
Yeah, it's certainly very potent, and if he wasn't able to pick off that Mind Control Warlock, should have been a lot more worried to be maneuverable in those fights with even to 1 level in upheaval. Probably would have been brought down before bringing down Bambo, who was able to force himself out just a microsecond too late as that last right click did land, and Miracle was able to pick off a couple there, so certainly very nice for BBC. It would have been a huge engagement going BU's way if he wasn't able to get those, and a little bit interesting that BBC chose to engage without their Tombstone and their Bridon Undying there just to try and save a tier 1. But either way, full Hex now picked up by Miracle's Meepo, and that's going to be a very influential item hereafter.
That's really frightening. I mean, it's not like there's any BKBs coming up. You're not gonna get a BKB. Disruptor just going down to the Meepo again. Looks like oh, we're gonna lose the Skywrath Mage as well. Smear right there, getting just brought down by the Miracle Meepo. Bambo gonna pick one of the remaining Meepos, bring him back. The rock is gonna be used to cut off the rest of the Meepos. A lot of damage coming out. Nice little poof micro, keeping them safe for now. But he does go down in the end. Looks like Yapsor are going to try and get that Warlock. I'm not sure it's going to happen. A little bit greedy on his side. Levi probably going to get it with that Frostbite right there, but I think he's going to give up his life as well. It's not like he can get away from... I mean, even the solo Bat Rider would be too much for him to run from right there. 2 golems notwithstanding.
Yeah, certainly so, and it would have been a nice engagement for BU, but dual pick off here coming in the way of Padrino and Massacre. They're going to bring down Paris, the one isolated hero from BU, and they should be able to translate this into a tier 2 push, especially considering that Static Storm, the Rock, and Lasso are all on cooldown for BU.
I mean, Lasso... No, Lasso won't be up in time. Still another 25 seconds to go. As low of a cooldown as it is, it's not that low.
Right, and they'll know it'll give them just enough space to find this tier 2, which it will. Padrino playing pretty aggressively. TP going to be cancelled there by the Skywrath Mage, and they will be able to back off content with their spoils at this point. Ogre, Axe, as well as 1,500 gold onto Massacre. You will be able to complete up that BKB in about 1,400 gold. So that'll certainly be a nice pickup for him. Still have the Rock to pierce through that, as well as the Omni Slash, which will do a lot of work for Paris, but should be nonetheless a nice item up against the Skywrath and the Disruptor.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those sort of catch-22 BKB games again, because there's a lot of really good stuff for dealing with the BKB, but you can't not get it.
Right.
Because otherwise the Skywrath and the Disruptor are just going to blow you up, as you mentioned. But between the Omni Slash, the Rock, and the Lasso, it's not really providing you a ton of protection.
Mm-hmm. Certainly so. It's a little bit of an interesting build coming up from Paris. It looks like he'll opt for a Battle Fury after his Manta here, so looking to translate this perhaps into the late game. And I will get a little bit of lag here. Hopefully it was just momentary. It seems as so smoke. Yeah. They're going to find Miracle in the pit here. They'll Ancient Seal him up, Mystic Flare under the Lasso, and he will poof in the rest of his Meepos, but it'll be a bit too late. So good diligence coming out from Unknown, checking the Roshan pit, and they will find a treat there in Miracle. They should be able to translate this into a Roche of themselves. And Bambo up on the high ground with that Firefly Vision is going to expire now. And he has been pinged out. The Tombstone will be dropped on the high ground as well. Static Storm going to go down. Massacre going to be able to chop down fucking Mad. The Omni Slash splitting through 2, though, is doing tons of work. And the defensive Euls from Padrino will be just in time to keep him up momentarily, with Paris finding a double kill on the Juggernaut. Yapsor from the high ground drops a Finger of Death. Levi is down as well as the Skywrath Mage, but there should still be a Roshan available here. Jump to the high ground. Yapsor has been found out with the Firefly ticking him down. Mana Drain from Yapsor is going to come out. BKB popped by Bambo, however, and he will back off Levi. And they're even going to drop drop the rock on the high ground from Mind Control here, so it can't contribute to this Roshan. And Meepo's up in 15 seconds, but they should be able to bring this down just fine with Paris attacking as quickly as he is.
I really don't love that rock in particular. I know I've been pretty forgiving on the solo rocks. I think a lot of them have actually been quite fine. But they're gonna force Staff down to try and get the golems back. That's so for just a lion kill. I mean, I think you could have let him TP out and had your rock to go maybe take, you know, 2-2 bottom or something.
Yeah, especially with that Aegis available. Yeah, definitely so. And Miracle is going to find the Golem anyways in the bot lane. That'll give himself a little bit of gold over. So, a little bit of a misstep from Miracle, but definitely just good diligence from BU, keeping their eyes on that pit. And they'll find a very nice engagement here in the mid game. Battle Fury going to be completed up from Paris. We'll see a dip in the graph. It's about a 5k, 6k in the way of 6k net worth lead for BBC. Massacre is going to find out fucking Mad here. He'll get Glimpse back, and fucking Mad should be able to rotate out just fine. Range Whirling Axe is not there. He'll even drop the kinetic field. And it looks like they will ping out this ward, however, from this side of BU. So BBC should be able to ward that here promptly. And that'll deny up a little bit of vision from BU. But back to the metrics, about a 6k net worth lead and about a 6k experience lead. Now generated by BBC, taken a little bit back by BU. They will immediately smoke up off of that, though, and look to find something. Yapzor does have a blink available to him on this Lion. Vision is barely going to catch fucking Mad and Bambo out. And will they would jump forward with the Hex onto Bambo. There is an Earth Spike. Tombstone dropped as well. Omni Slash going to be popped on the back lines. Fucking Mad is going to be dropped. And the Skywrath Mage getting very low. Miracle as well. It looks like this Arcane Bolt should pick him down, and it does. That's the Meepo down for 75 seconds. Does have buyback available. Upheaval is going to be popped. TP out from the Skywrath will keep him safe for now. It's a 2-for-1 going the way of BU. They still are pretty healthy, or going the way of BBC. I should say BU still pretty healthy to fight here, but they will extricate themselves from any risk. And with Bambo as well as their Static Storm down, not willing to continue to fight on.
Yeah, it was a little bit iffy of a Static Storm, I feel like. I mean, because of the kinetic field, he couldn't actually hit anyone with it. So it was just kind of, I think it was just a little bit of a panic dropped there by Bucking Mad. But, I don't know. It's not like it has a particularly long cooldown. It'll be up for the next major engagement. Again, it's one of those ultimates he can really get away with. The only ultimate they have to be really, really careful about dropping, obviously, is going to be the rock right there.
Yeah, Chaotic Offering is certainly one of those that you want to hold on to until it's going to garner you a big advantage. And it is a 3rd level Aghanim's ultimate now for Mind Control, so he has recovered decently. Looks like he'll build into a BKB of his own as well, and isn't too far off of that right now. Actually just needs a couple hundred gold to pick that up, so will be a very nice pickup for Mind Control. He's been able to be dropped quite quickly to most of these poofs. Meanwhile, Mystic Flare is going to be committed to pick off Yapzor. It looks like he dropped a finger as well, but wasn't able to quite bring down fucking Mad. And unfortunately for Yapzor, he will be down for the next bit. And they perhaps...
So mid lane, Tombstone gets dropped. Is going to try and take out Paris right here. The Rock is going to get dropped to disrupt the fight over there. No Fatal Bonds going out. Upheaval not quite going to catch a lot of people. It doesn't look like BU wants to commit right here. Skywrath going to get picked off elsewhere by Miracle. He's not here for this fight. A lot of slow still lasting over onto BBC. Looks like the Omni Slash finally going to get burned. Paris going to put himself in right there. Oh, the Glimpse back is going to come out on Massacre as well. That's a really, really big pickoff right there. They've only lost the Skywrath Mage over there. Looks like Bridon might want to recommit right here. I'm not sure that's the wisest idea. Miracle is in, gets silenced by the Static Storm, but nothing to hold him into it. Nothing going on. Looks like we have a lot of damage coming out again from those nice cleaves coming out from Paris. You can see him doing tons of damage there. Manta Style is now back up. They can easily translate this into a tower push if they want to. That got a little chaotic there on the re-engage. I'm not sure what Padrino was trying to get right there.
Yeah.
Frankly. I mean, especially because I'm not sure it's even worth it at this point.
He was
the Warlock has his Aghanims. You're not slowing it down anymore.
Yeah, he was anticipating the return of Miracle and probably thought they can get a lot more done than they actually did. And as you mentioned, the Battle Fury certainly paying dividends there for Paris. He finds a lot off that engagement. Allow 11, 4, and 10 in terms of the KDA. He's right on top of the chart just behind the Meepo of Miracle, who's fed over some costly deaths here. And without Yapzor, who did die early there, they have a bad time in that mid lane. Lasso committed even underneath the Tombstone, and BU finding a a very nice engagement. They get the tier 2 off of that as well, and Paris' Juggernaut starting to become that scary late game force that we have seen throughout this meta. He'll pick up the Aghanims. Omnislash did do quite a bit of work in that mid lane, bringing Massacre extremely low as well as finishing off Levi, and with that glimpse back, they find a really nice engagement in the mid even after the BKB picked up by the Troll Warlord.
Yeah, honestly, I was starting to think that maybe Paris was going to issue the Aghanims this game because he was kind of holding off on it so long, but at this point, he just, I mean, he picked up the entire thing, brought it right to himself. Very, very potent as usual, and I think that 70-second cooldown is going to be really big for them because, like I mentioned, a lot of their other ultimates are pretty short cooldowns.
Right. So,
I mean, every 80 seconds... or once he's 16, every 70 seconds you're going to have the Disruptor ultimate. Every 60 seconds you have the Bat Rider ultimate. So basically every time one of these small sets of ultimates is up, you can burn them for a pickoff and then get an objective. Burn them for a pickoff, get an objective, and by the time cores start coming back up, like if you can pick up off a core with this, unless they burn buyback, they're going to basically be dead for the entire downtime of your ultimate. And you always have the Chaotic Offering available as your trump card if they decide to try and take you 4v5 saying, oh, X and Y ultimates are down, let's fight. You still have a Warlock to back you up, which is very, very significant.
Yeah, certainly so. So definitely the timing windows are there's plentiful for sure for BU, as you mentioned. And what are your thoughts on this Crimson Guard pickup from Bridon? I feel like it's a pretty underwhelming pickup in this one as opposed to the pipe. We may see an engagement bottom jump forward from Bambo. He's gonna pop his BKB. Miracle able to juke him out for the time being. He will get the lasso off. The Mystic Flare is gonna whiff completely, however, and Bambo dropping low. The Static Storm is there with the Fatal Bonds, however, and the Meeple will fall here. We will see Massacre probably able to chase down this Skywrath Mage, but Bridon dropping very low under the Crimson Guard. He will drop to Paris as well. Tombstone will be here, but it will be able to sound the retreat of Levi for now. Meanwhile, all the cores except for Massacre, who was able to TP himself out for BBC, are down. They will pick off Levi as well, and with Paris still alive, they can continue to push forward here, at least for this tier 2. No buybacks available from anyone on BBC.
I mean, I think we just saw about how effective the Crimson Guard is going to be. I can understand why he'd want to go for it. I mean, the Juggernaut Manta illusions will get blocked pretty heavily by it. The Warlock Golems, if they're not proccing Flaming Fists, will get a decent chunk of their damage taken off. But in general, I mean, the Jug is hitting so fast, and the main Jug is going to be on top of anyone they care about anyway. It's not going to help you against the Omni Slash. It's not going to help you against the massive amount of magical damage. I do think the Pipe might have been a better choice. But at the same time, though, I can understand because... No, you know what? He went straight Crimson Guard after the Vladdies. Like, if he had gone Vanguard early for tower dives or something like that, or just for fighting purposes, and then built it into a Crimson Guard later just to try and extend the life of the item, I think I'd like it a little bit better. But as it is, I think it's just a little bit too late in the game for it to be really effective.
Yeah, certainly so. And yeah, he did pick up that Vlad's Yules, so interesting choice for him to opt for that afterwards. Paris starting to hit late game critical mass at this point. He's got the Manta, the Battle Fury, and the Eggs, as well as 4,600 gold on him. So we'll see what he opts for. Perhaps the Battle Fury, the Butterfly, excuse me, is the choice here from him up against the Meeple, as well as all the physical damage there. Yule Scepter up, Tombstone is dropped as well. Bambo gonna be able to pop his BKB though. He'll lasso Bridon down to the low ground. He's getting chopped down quickly from Paris. Flame Break gonna finish him off. Static Storm gonna be a little bit underwhelming, but Massacre totally isolated for that Omni Slash, and with the Aghanims jumps, he'll get brought down as well. And Roshan probably going to spawn pretty soon here if luck is in the way of BU. Levi going to get glimpsed back, finish off as well, and overall, double kill going Bambo's way, one going the way of Paris. No buybacks again available for BBC, and Roshan does spawn promptly here for BU. They'll be able to find this and probably a high ground push off of it as well.
Yeah, Miracle is getting some work done over in the top lane, but Mind Control is going to TB back, and between Mind Control and Mad, I think they actually can kill Miracle just fine. Looks like Miracle's gonna blink in, oddly enough. Fatal Bonds is gonna go out, a little bit of damage. Upheaval to hold him in the place. Looks like Lion's gonna die over by that Roche pit too. Oh no, he was down in bottom lane.
Yeah. Weird. Yeah, in the bottom lane, Yaps are caught out by Bambo, and he was brought down along with the Skywrath Mage. Miracle's gonna feed his life over as well in the base of BU, and that's all 5 down for BBC momentarily. The Meepo is down without buyback, excuse me, for quite a while, and the Aegis is now available into the very capable hands of Paris. He's got 5,800 gold as well on this Juggernaut. So can at least stash the Mask of Madness for now if he wants to complete up something like a Butterfly, but they will be content to sit back and farm for the time being. They're going to allow BBC to respawn here, so a little bit of an odd choice, but they can look to go up mid lane as they have regrouped now and healed up as a full 5-man lineup.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of Miracle's Meepo plays are very, very greedy. I mean, he's doing a lot of these blink-ins that are getting punished very, very heavily by the Disruptor ultimate. He's getting himself Fatal Bonded and silenced away from the team a lot, and even if they just have the Skywrath available to get the single silence off and pick up the one Meepo, obviously that's all they need. And then in that top lane too, I feel like after he knew 2 heroes were there, especially the Skywrath who could silence him out and isolate one Meepo, I think staying in there was exceptionally greedy.
Yeah, and he was punished for it.
Worse.
Yeah, and he was punished for it, and now, I mean, you really want your Meepo to be ahead at least in terms of levels, but now Paris is at his level 24 and 4k ahead of the net worth of that Meepo. He is going to opt for the Butterfly here, and we'll have that completed up as the Courier ferries it over to him now, and he is going to hit that really critical point of late game mass now, and they should be certainly very worried from the side of BBC. Don't know that they're going to be able to bring him down with all his effective HP. Now, E-Blade as well, picked up by Bambo, so that Mystic Flare underneath the lasso will be ever the more potent for this next engagement.
Yeah, and also just if he gets himself in a bad situation, being able to or save anyone basically who's getting focused down by that Meepo, like after the poof spam, if you've got 5 Meepos swinging on you, looks like they are going to grab Miracle real quick. The poofs in are going to come, but immediately the Static Storm again, catching so many heroes right there. Miracle immediately down, no buyback available from him. Padrino taking a lot of damage, managing to heal himself off. Mazakari man fighting Paris there in the middle. The Aegis is still there though. He is going to finish the troll before they even goes down. They burn the finger on the Aegis. I'm not sure I love it. Levi going to get picked on the back run, and these golems finally, I said that these golems needed to do something in these big team fights when they got their hands on them, and look at the damage they're just tearing into this enemy team. Between Paris and the golems, they don't have anywhere to go. Bambo gonna go in on Yapsor, just get him out for the Skywrath to blow up. I think this is game. There's no buybacks.
Yeah, no buybacks on anyone from the side of BBC, and it's definitely at least 2 lanes of racks, and it will be the GG despite them having the tier 2 up. Definitely could have just gone thrown from the side of BU. Well played by them to recover after what wasn't the greatest early game, and the dual lanes proving not potent enough from BBC here, but just as you mentioned, some greedy plays coming out from Miracle, and the Fatal Bond, Static Storm doing quite a bit of work, especially considering the addition of that Battle Fury in the mid game for Paris. So a nice item progression from Sakshka coming out as well. BU gonna take this to a deciding game 3, guys. Winner moves on directly to the grand finals. Loser goes to face X Game up in the lower bracket finals. Any last thoughts on this one, Hippie?
I mean, not much other than what we've already said. Yeah. I just think that the Meepo into the Disruptor, looking back on the game, picking the Meepo into the Disruptor ended up being a lot greedier than I expected at the draft screen, and I think he generally got wrecked pretty hard by the Static Storm more than anything else. Yeah,
certainly so. So we'll be back momentarily, guys. Be sure to stay tuned for this Game 3 winner. Moves on to the Grand Finals, playing up for about 8K US in your Bridon Open Cup first season.